Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the View Screen podcast where we introduce sci-fi shows to a fantasy nerd. I'm Viztee.
I'm Overlite.
And today we're watching the first episode of the Orville. I heard you like Star Trek. I heard you like Family Guy. Well, have I got the show for you?
Wait, hang on, there's no... What? There was Family Guy in
Introducing the Orville. What? Well, it's Seth MacFarlane, isn't it? So...
Oh, I had no idea. I don't...
Wait, you didn't realise that Seth MacFarlane was Seth MacFarlane? This is pretty controversial.
Oh, is Seth MacFarlane the guy playing the main character?
Yeah, he's the captain.
I don't know actors.
Well, I mean, he's a very famous, like, showrunner,
I know his name.
Voice actor.
I know Seth MacFarlane is an incredibly famous name. To like in my head, I'm like, this is a very famous person. That's a name I've heard. Or I've seen it on Family Guy credits, and I'm pretty sure in other places. He made
Family Guy. He made American Dad. He made the Cleveland Show. Like that whole thing was Seth MacFarlane.
He made one universe. And then
one whole long, incredibly successful
3 shows
universe.
In it. Yeah, fair enough.
Now
he
went. I want to do a Star Trek TV show, so I'm gonna write a script, and then I'm gonna see if anybody wants to buy it. And then Fox was like, sure. And then a TV show that was actually really fucking good has been spawned out of it.
Yep. Are they still making it?
They just did season 3, which came out
a
few months ago. Of recording. Which, but from me, could have been like 6 months ago. I'm not very good with time. For me, I say the other day, and what I mean is 2 years ago. But I'm pretty sure it came out in 2022.
June the 2nd, 2022 is when.
God, it feels like yesterday.
Pretty much. It's not very long ago.
No. By what? Yeah, they did like and that was like a special. It was on Hulu instead of on whatever it was on before.
Oh, Hulu. It's a very American
Disney
one,
Plus
right?
in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did like a short. They did like, I don't know, 6 short. I can't remember how many episodes they did, but they did like a really short season, but like longer, tighter episodes that were like kind of movie quality. It was very, very epic.
In
very
season 3.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it gets better.
Yeah, they went all out.
Actually, I guess.
Yeah, they went really kind of all out for season 3. I don't know if that was like.
I think they're just following the. You know what? Did they grow their beard?
They did, but nobody actually grew a beard. I don't.
Oh.
Well, actually, no. Actually, that's not true. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there is a beard growing.
I can't believe it. Of course, I called it. Season 3 is when it gets good, and somebody grows a beard.
I think it gets really good. Like a few episodes into season 1. Like I think the first few episodes are pretty damn good.
I'm not gonna lie,
but they're very, very, very comedy heavy. Especially the first episode is
I have positive things to say.
That is really?
Yes.
Okay.
I liked it,
but it was like Star Trek.
It had the setting of Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's got a Starfleet, and it's got futuristic technologies, and it's got guns that are curved, just smooth guns, completely, missing any sort of mechanism whatsoever, just a smooth little tube that shoots lasers.
Yeah. It's a magic laser
and it's
tube.
got people in blue and red and yellow shirts. Actually, I don't even remember if anyone was in a yellow shirt.
I just remember blue and red.
It's got a chip with a name, and the music is I have to be honest.
Mm.
The So the show was Star Trek. It wasn't Star Trek, but it was set in the Star Trek world until fights happened, and then suddenly we were in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is an actual deliberate thing. I assume it is. Yeah. Because literally down to the music. This is why I stopped at music, because I was gonna be like, oh, the music was Star Trek, and I was like, oh no, it wasn't. Because when the fights happened, suddenly all of the instruments were Star Wars music. And I was like, what's going on? We're in a different setting. This is wild.
Yeah, I really, really like the music in it. It's very
good.
Epic. And I think it was because one of the big sort of complaints of the more modern Star Trek is that it doesn't have a lot of the kind of, well, there are a lot of complaints people have for various things, but one of the things is that, like, there's not enough kind of ship porn shots, like showing off the spaceships with long, epic musical interludes of just flying past the ship. And
exactly the kind of thing I really don't like.
That. No, but the Orville had a lot of that.
I kind of just weirdly.
Beautiful.
I think basically whenever there were ship porn shots, just flying around and space fights and whatever, I basically just sort of, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's modern day stuff. Like that to me, it just looked like something I could see every day, which is what I think why I'm so like, when it comes to the Star Trek and the original and the, you know, the respected stuff, I'm like, why are you respecting this? You can see this like there are so many shows that have these crazy visuals in, and it like really dampens I think the effect of seeing them.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. But then like with also in the music, it's like I thought like the sort of fighting and battles and stuff. I think a lot of the more modern Star Trek has been kind of criticized for being very like too fighty, whereas the Orville just went, we're just gonna lean into it. They kind of went with the sort of beautiful music fighting stuff.
Okay, I mean, I don't know where to start with the. I feel like I don't want to go on a mega rant this early. We just sort of jumped into it, and I feel like we're gonna want to go through the plot, and we can get to the fights when we get to the fights. I think the fights were fine. I don't know. I felt like the fighting it was like, yeah, they're fighting, but also it had a lot of movement, or like it had a lot of not fighting in it. It had a lot of
compared to like I think it is more Star Warsy than Star Trek in a way, because they're flying around things and there's a lot of movement, whereas a lot of Star Trek fighting is a ship is in a position and stuff happens around it, or it feels like the ships are moving really slowly and just kind of pew-pewing at each other, whereas this is like they're flying around each other really, really fast. And
I'm just going to talk about I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the fights, and we're going to keep literally, so at some point in the episode there's a bunch of fighting. Wow. There's the Orville, it's in space fighting, and we also get scenes on a planet of people fighting and shooting each other and stuff. And literally, like, as soon as the fighting started, I was looking at it and I was like, what's going on? Why am I in Star Wars? Because immediately the first thing that happens is they shoot some lasers at each other. And these are like Star Wars lasers. These are like, I feel like I'm watching an AT-AT in space shooting a laser at another AT-AT. I mean, obviously they're different aesthetic ships, but like the lasers have been taken from, it feels like from that CGI has just been transported into this setting. And I'm like, okay, they're shooting Star Wars lasers at each other, I guess. And then, you know, they start fighting on the ground, and I realize the music earlier in the episode, it's like all of the Star Trek instruments. It's like all of the Star Trek instruments.
Yeah, like sort of strings, horns.
Yeah, very long notes. And
very long.
And then the fighting starts, and I'm pretty sure the instruments like completely change, or like how they use them completely. Like the style completely changes to, I don't even remember what the music in Star Trek like what that was doing when they were fighting. I almost feel like there wasn't...
I mean, now that you've said that, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I think I was sitting there trying to remember and I couldn't, but like it felt like I was, it felt like I was in the battle, watching the Battle of Hoth on that snow-covered planet, like with the music just like, and the lasers shooting each other. And then on top of that, there was a scene where they're in a corridor, okay? And the corridor is like, I can't remember which color it was first. It's completely red. And I'm like, this is a Star Wars shot. And then it goes from completely red to completely blue. And I'm like, this is a Star Wars shot. We're suddenly in like Darth Vader's corridor, and there's just everything is bathed in red. Like, it was very it's quite cool because you literally, like, not very long ago, you didn't tell me anything about the Orville. You just we're watching the Orville, and I went and watched it, and I happened to see that it was a comedy, so I was primed for like parody.
Yeah, I was like, should I tell Overlite that it's like a comedy parody Star Trek? I was like, nah, I'll just tell her to watch it.
I think I like it more that way. Just don't tell me anything, and I'll just
okay.
I'll just try not to look at anything, and we'll see.
It's going. Well, that's why I didn't tell you when we did Stargate SG-1. I didn't tell you there was a movie because we weren't watching the movie, and I was like, I'll just not give you any information about it at all, and I'm just gonna drop you in and see what it's like.
And I didn't realize there was a movie until the day we recorded. When I did a quick like rewatch of that, and I was like trying to find it, and then I found this other thing that sounded like a movie title and had the length of a movie, and I was like, hang on, the stuff they talked about that all happened, that was actually a movie, and it wasn't just like, it wasn't just like, I had that realization. I was like, oh. It wasn't just random fluff. Oh my god. It was good though. I enjoyed this. I think I don't know, like, if
No, I was gonna say, like, I put off watching the Orville for ages and ages when it first came out, because it came out around the time when a bunch of the new Star Trek stuff was coming out. And I enjoyed the new Star Trek stuff. Like, it's not perfect or whatever. You can easily go, like, I don't like this compared to the old Star Treks. And I think stuff like Strange New World has really gone a long way to making the sort of new Star Trek a lot like the old Star Trek in some ways. But anyway, I put off watching the Orville because a lot of people on, like, social media, on the subreddits and stuff were like, if you like, you should watch this new Star Trek. You should just watch the Orville instead. It's like Star Trek, but modern and better, or whatever. I was like, ugh, I'm not.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Don't tell me that I should go and watch a different show when I'm here to talk about how much I enjoyed the Star Trek episode. Don't come in here, shit on my fucking food, and tell me to go and eat somewhere else.
It's the number one way to guarantee that someone doesn't watch something, is to repeatedly tell them that they should watch it.
So I didn't.
Is to repeatedly be like excited about. Well, maybe not excited, but just, I think on the internet as well, if someone's being like genuinely excited about it, it might still come off as like really rude. And if everyone's talking about it, then
there was a lot, and I was just like, I'm not gonna watch it. Fuck the Orville. I'm not even gonna watch that.
All my homies hate the
Orville.
Orville.
All my homies hate that.
Dumbass Orville.
Yeah, fucking Orville. And then at one point, I think I was out of shows to watch. I had that sci-fi itch, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Everybody says the Orville's really good. I'm gonna watch it then. And so I watched it through, and I was like, damn. This is a great show. It's like, I like this better than some of the new Star Trek.
It's that meme of like sitting here shaking my. It's like when they tell you like Shakespeare, everyone talks about how good Shakespeare is, and you're like, surely Shakespeare can't be that good. And then you go and you watch Shakespeare, and it is that good, and you're like, how did this happen? I can't believe
it. Oh, but yeah, I really enjoyed the Orville. Like, it starts off very silly and very comedy, like to an excess, I think. Especially in the first episode, extremely quippy.
I enjoyed the quips. I think if they did quips like, so the whole episode they were just like constantly throwing sudden quips at you and jokes and just constantly it was getting thrown at you. You know, it was like you never expected where it was coming from because there were just so many little jokes here and there. But I enjoyed it, honestly. I thought I saw that it was a comedy and I was like, okay, they're gonna be funny, and I did laugh a couple times. I was eating while watching sort of the first half or so of it. And I did like, you know, I was eating food and I had to stop for a second a couple times because it made me chuckle. I think if they did it for a whole season, I would get very tired of it.
Well, they do still keep up the comedy. It's just like they start taking like breaks, the characters start taking like certain moments a bit more seriously. I think because like in this episode, there were a couple of bits where like yeah, but there was like a situation where like, you know, really they should be listening to the information they're getting, but instead they're just like they're just being really sort of snarky and bitchy and jokey instead of like actually taking the sort of threat seriously. But it works out kind of in the end.
I did. Yeah, there were a few handful times where they would like a dramatic thing was happening and they would make a joke and I'd be like, with these characters, there's a gun pointed at you right now. Like your life's in horrible, like it doesn't.
I don't know. It doesn't. I think some people definitely would. I've been watching a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. recently, and I love that like they kind of hit a point in that where they stop taking shit super seriously because they've been through so much that like they've become unfazed by all the fucking weird bullshit they have to go through all the time, and they just kind of like, not that they think they're invincible or whatever, but they're like, yeah, I can probably take this guy. So they just fucking sass in their face instead of like going, oh no, a gun. They're just like, I'm just gonna fucking make fun of you instead. And I kind of like that.
I do. Yeah, it is fun to see like a character get disillusioned by the amount of like bullshit.
Yeah.
Which I think it happens quite a lot with like long running shows, where it's just like if shows that just keep going forever. I had a discussion about this last week. I feel like sometimes the characters just get, it's like, oh no, like we killed God the other day and now you're pointing a gun at me. Fuck.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Oh
no.
you think you're a god? Well, I've killed 6 gods. So I guess you're just gonna be number 7, bitch. It's like, well, whatever, dude.
Another day in the office.
Yeah. I'll be back in time for tea.
Gotta call my 1 second. I gotta call my wife. Tell her I'll be late for dinner. Gotta clean something up.
Gotta tell her to leave my food in the oven. I'll be an hour late. I don't think this is gonna take that long.
Let me check my watch. I gotta make sure I'm home on time.
Babysitting the grandkids. Been doing this 2 days from retirement. No!
How long can we keep this joke going? I don't know. But maybe I should go get my watch fixed so that I can make sure that we're done on time.
We finished this episode on time. Oh my word.
Should we talk about the plot?
Or we should probably talk about the actual show. So we watched episode 1.
Can I do my ramble? Can I do my?
Yeah.
I've got a little ramble. I don't have a pre-planned ramble like all the other times I ramble. Sometimes I write notes, but the opening. This is my opening rating. I feel like I do it every show. Very little exposition. It's very nice. We get a nice shot of, I think, space and then a city.
Yeah.
Lots of flying cars, very like sci-fi utopia future.
Yeah,
a man
I think it
gets into his.
It's 2024 something or other. Like it's
2002. It's 2224.
Something
Something like that. A guy gets into his flat, goes to his bedroom. There's 2 people in his bed. One of them starts apologizing to him. He's like, nope, I'm done. He leaves. Fade to black. 1 year later. I'm like, perfect introduction.
Yep.
You set, like, I understand so much of what's going on. Like, Star Trek is a just time eternal series. Like, it's iconic. So that setting, I understand the vibes and like sort of the way that it's shot. I feel like Star Trek has a certain like, everyone kind of poses. Everyone's always like, the way the guy sat in the chair when the car he came in on was very Star Trek-y to me. Like, he was sat with both arms on an armchair and he was in an outfit that was Star Trek. And like also when it comes back from that fade to black, I think he's in like an office with a Starfleet.
Well, I should say,
officer or something.
Just for everybody, it's not actually Star Trek. It's its own setting.
It's its own setting.
But it's
However,
basically just an entire sort of kind of rip-off parody of Star Trek. Like, it's inspired from Star Trek. Obviously, they didn't make a Star Trek.
So to me, as someone who doesn't watch Star Trek or has only seen 4 episodes of just some episode 1s of 3 series or something.
Yeah.
Or 2. I can't remember how many we did. It's like, to me, when I think of Star Trek, this is exactly the same thing. And I think it's the same thing. If you've ever heard like Simlish, which is what the Sims speak, it's like a weird form of English. But if you're a non-English speaker, English and Simlish sound the same. And like, as a non-Star Trek fan, this and Star Trek, I'm like, these are the same. It's like the outfits and the sort of single lone ship flying through space doing missions and the bridge and like everything is structured in a way to me that is like Star Trek. And I'm like, okay, we're in the Star Trek setting. And then obviously it did a very, very good job of just being like, this man has a wife, or not a wife, this man has a partner who has cheated on him. And it's been a year. And immediately, like, the next scene, he's like obviously still struggling with it. And I'm like, great. And then it launches into a bunch of exposition.
Yeah. Well, it's only just like,
it wasn't as bad.
No, it's kind of, because it was kind of just like, oh, I know you've been having a rough year after your divorce, and the admirals are pretty fucking pissed at you, but we thought you'd be doing well, so we've decided that we're gonna give you a go, and we're gonna give you a ship, because we need captains. So
yeah, I think because it's the kind of thing...
kind of shit ship, because we're not looking so hot right now. Instead of being like, Captain Picard, you're the best person in Starfleet. We think you're gonna be a fine captain of the flagship of the thing, and instead it's just like, yep, you're kind of a bit shit, but we need captains, and we thought you'd be doing pretty good by now, and you're not, so here's the ship.
I was going to say that didn't bother me at all, but actually, the characters in this is, I think, maybe one of the main reasons I like this a lot more than, traditional Star Trek. The characters feel like people.
Yeah.
At one point, two characters are flying to the Orville, and one of them, they're like talking, and then one of them just stops and is like, "Are you holding a beer?" And the other guy is just like drinking on the way, and he's nervous. And it's like, I was so quickly, I was like, these these characters feel like it's like they've taken the Star Trek setting and they've put actual people in them, and not like speech machines, not like ancient Greek orators.
Yeah, it's like they've got like a 25th century like science, like you flying in space setting, but they've taken people from like today and made them sort of.
They've taken your mate from the pub.
Yeah. Your mate from the pub's really fucking good at flying a starship, and so you've gotten him. You're the captain, and you know you've got your mate. Bit cheeky nepotism, you know. He got kicked out for smashing a shuttle into a cargo door and ripping it clean off because he was trying to impress a girl.
Whoa, Viztee. This is too much expositionary dialogue.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, no, but they feel like people. And you know, like as you said, the friend with the getting kicked out. The doctor at one point is like, basically words. At one point, I don't want to cut ahead. That's what I'm.
All right, yeah. He gets given a ship. Anyway,
he gets given a ship. There's a lot of expositionary dialogue. Oh, right, that's what I was going to say. Our main character, I think his name is like Ed. Yeah. Ed Norton. I'm going to call him Ed Norton for now.
He's called Ed Mercer.
Ed Mercer, thank you. Yeah. There's expositionary dialogue at the start, but I don't mind a lot of it because a lot of it is to do with his character, and like we could have had scenes of him working on himself and like trying to do better and struggling, but like it is just a lot faster if they just are like, we know you've been struggling, we're giving you a ship. Yeah,
I think that like level of thing is fine. I think exposition. I think it's just building, like exposition. Any sort of writing tool is useful if you use it well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when it's for characters, I'm a lot more sympathetic versus when it's for world building. Like if someone's like, why are you holding your positronic receptor that way? And then the other character's like, positronic receptors only work when they're pointed upwards. Everybody knows that, but you don't because you're an alien from this random tiny planet, so I'm also going to explain this bit about you being a tiny alien like that stuff is just awful to me. But when it's like character, because some of it is less exposition at that point and more like actual character growth and like conversations, and when you see characters like change and develop, like a lot of it is through conversations, and so it's like a mix for me. I'm a lot more sympathetic when it's kind of explaining where a character is at, less and a lot less sympathetic when it's like, now we will explain why the cars fly. I don't need to know why the cars fly. You're in a sci-fi setting. They just do.
It's the gravitational beam cannon.
Anyway, he gets a ship.
I'm just making some shit up. Anyway.
He gets a ship. Do you want me to keep doing the plot?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, I started off because I was going to talk about it. Anyway, yeah, he does like a roll call. He gets on the ship, does a roll call with his crew. And I really, really like this. Just because it was snarky. Like, it was just kind of fun and also did a decent job of introducing us to the characters. I don't know if... Like, I enjoyed the scene, this scene where they introduced all these characters, the crew, you know, the medical officer, the engineer, the navigator, the security officer, the two other people who I don't really know what they did, but I'm sure they did something. And they all had like their own back and forth with the captain. I I don't know if that's like a good way of introducing all these characters, but they did. Honestly, they were all super duper memorable. Like the way it introduced the characters. Like I can remember all of them. I can't remember their names because I don't remember any names. Didn't even remember main character's name. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think throughout the show, the first episode, they really do a huge lot of name. Like,
yeah,
I think one episode in, you're not gonna necessarily remember every single bridge officer's name or whatever.
Yeah, but they did a really, really good job of just priming us as the audience for who the crew is, because the captain goes down the line and he has a quick conversation with all of them, and it's like, I can't remember the order he's in, but the main one I remember is he gets to the doctor and he's like, you're a massive professional, you're super experienced, why are you here? And she was like, I like to be assigned wherever the hell I want to be, basically. And he was like, are you patronizing me and saying I can't do my job? She's like, they just snark back and forth, and then the captain eventually gets like shut down because he's like, oh, well, you think I don't have enough balls to be a captain? And she's like, well, I'll know if something's wrong with your balls. I'm the doctor. Like, I'm your doctor. Which immediately I was like, this would not happen in Star Trek.
No,
this is not a conversation. Like you don't get this kind of
you're not going to talk about someone's balls in Star Trek.
No one is like grandmotherly in that way in Star Trek. No one is like casual and silly. It didn't seem to like, it's got this like, it seems to have like the sort of this grandness about itself. Star Trek has, I feel like when I see Star Trek, it's got like this grandness, and then the Orville like doesn't take itself seriously, and all the characters feel like people.
Yeah.
Or at least, I've seen just in episode 1. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the. I'm already making sweeping statements about how these shows are.
Because it carries on like this, and tells some great stories, and is silly, and funny, and
like I'm not surprised if it does. Yeah, if it does end up stepping away from comedy, because actually they did a really, really good job of having a Star Trek setting where the characters feel like people, and I don't know if anyone's done that yet, honestly, because, people are constantly pining for more Star Trek, even though there's a lot of it now.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you're feeling about all the different Star Trek series, like if you feel like some of them are more... I don't know. We haven't watched Lower Decks yet. We'll see what you think when we get there.
I mean, that's even that in my mind. That's like pure parody.
Yeah.
Versus that's what I assume is that it's pure parody versus this, which is like it's like comedy with moments of serious. It's like it's making fun of a lot of it, but then also able to tell a serious story. But I do think like I'm not surprised that the Orville later on can have like more serious moments because it honestly like it was very high quality. Like the music was good, the camera work, like the scenes, the storyboarding, I think that's the word I'm looking for, felt good. The sets were pretty great. The characters like this were very clearly introduced. It was just like, and like the fact that I noticed what seemed to be basically a sort of genre switch for the fight.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think it was a good thing. It was really cool. And like I did sort of assume it would be... It was a lot of Star Trek at first, and I was like, is this show Star Trek, but like a parody? Or is it like Star Trek and space sort of exploration sci-fi as a more general whole? Like, is it going to be only Starfleet, or are we going to see some weird Force person later on, or are we going to see some like thing? And when it suddenly had incredibly Star Wars inspired fighting scenes, I was like, I'm not surprised, but it was good. It was entertaining. It made a good it was entertaining. I'm entertained.
Wow.
In a way that Star Trek could never entertain me.
Damn.
Never.
Wow.
Anyway, they do a roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Do we want to cover what even happens this episode? They do a roll call. They go to a planet.
Yeah, they get ordered to deliver supplies to an outpost on some random planet.
Super sci-fi outpost. They go there. The scientist they speak to is like, we don't actually need supplies.
Yeah, he was like, oh, we don't need
serious
supplies,
situation.
But I needed to get you here, and they're like being really quippy, but at the same time being like, you can't like divert a starship in active duty for shits and fucking giggles.
They get down. Turns out they've made a time acceleration machine.
Yeah.
It ages everything in a field.
Time moves way faster within the area of the beam. So they make a banana rot or whatever it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, they make a banana rot.
And then suddenly the baddies show up.
Pretty much. One of the lab assistants is a traitor to the krill, which I was hoping for shrimp people when they showed up.
What?
I was really hoping it would just be shrimp people because of the krill. But no, they were like lizardy kind of.
Yeah.
I think they're quite lizardy, sort of reptilian. And one of the lab assistants is a traitor. Oh my gosh! And then there's a bunch of fighting. The krill ship and the Orville fight, and the krill also deploys some soldiers on the ground. There's a bunch of ground fighting. Honestly, I really enjoyed the security officer. There's a security officer, and they're meant to be like super strong.
Yeah, but she's very young because she's from a planet where, blah blah blah. She's really strong, gravity things. And so basically they fast track her species through the academy because they're like super strong. They're like, get them into fucking security positions ASAP. But so she's got to chief of security on a mid-level starship.
Because they don't have like enough. There are very few of their race that enlist.
Yeah, and they already need more people to crew all ships anyway.
Yeah.
So she's super young, but then
which makes sense actually.
Nails.
Honestly. Again, it makes sense to me. There's a staffing shortage at Starfleet. They don't have enough people. Like, they don't have enough qualified workers.
Yeah.
That's honestly, that makes sense
to
me.
It's like fucking NHS.
Oh, the fucking real world. They got a bloody strike next. I can't
believe it. All the security officers gone on fucking strike. Oh, fuck yeah.
Anyway, I really enjoyed. There was so when the lab assistant like turns on them all, it becomes a hostage situation for a solid like 2 or 3 minutes. He's got like a gun to one of the people's heads, and he's like, "Give me the device, give me the time accelerating device." And I was sat there watching, like, isn't there literally a security officer? Is the security officer going to do anything? There's meant to be a security officer, right? And then, a minute later, picks up, like breaks a pipe off the wall or something and just hurls it at him. And then, like, in all the fights, this, like, incredibly strong security officer is just, like, bashing everybody's heads in.
Yeah.
And, like, there's a safe wall, and they just body slam it. They body slam this, like, door to the outside that's as big as a safe, and it just comes off its hinges, basically.
My favorite bit is they like go, "Hey, Alara, take the time the weird device and take it back to the ship." And she's like, "Okay." And so she grabs it, and then she just fucking Superman leaps through the air. Like,
so
mega
good.
leaps, and all of the krill just like stop shooting and like look and follow her through the sky, like, what the fuck is going on? And then they like go back to shooting again immediately.
Yeah. It's just so like so good, honestly. I just really enjoyed watching this incredibly strong super security officer just be very strong and just like just do superhuman feats of strength.
It's so good.
They get away with the device, and then there's a I think this is a minor deal that immediately gets resolved. Actually, is there's a krill on their ship. They knock out the krill immediately, and it's never referred to again.
No, because even like they didn't even like really realize he was there, and he's like, hand over the thing, and then I'm just like, bonk, and then it's just like, yep, okay.
Do you know what it was? They needed a cliffhanger to cut to ads.
Oh,
because it fades to black in the way that it does it about 3 or 4 times in the episodes. It just fades to black very awkwardly.
I do notice that a lot in shows, but sometimes I notice, and sometimes I just zone it out.
It's always the American shows where I'm like, it fades to black, and I'm like, oh, they put a scene in to cut to ads. What I find funny is I think British shows, they just don't put scenes in that are like a break for ads. They'll just cut it somewhere.
Yeah,
they'll just
sometimes it's really or like if they take American shows which doesn't fit with that ad schedule or something, they'll like cut at like the most fucking weird time. It'll just be like a sentence just finishes, and then it'll be like, "Oh, nice to meet you," and then it'll be like ad break. And it's just like, "Oh, okay."
Don't give a fuck.
Oh my god.
We'll put ads wherever we like. Yeah, they get back on the ship. And then the krill hail them.
Oh wait, no, you haven't done the cool ship fighting scene and the redocking of the shuttle.
There's some cool shit. I am sort of jumping quite a lot.
Yeah.
There's a really, really cool, like, what do they call it? Hugging the donkey?
Yeah, something like that.
What? They're getting like beat up super bad, and the captain's nepotism best mate that he got on board, who is like an incredible flyer, but you know he's got bad behavior. He doesn't behave well. He gets drunk and all sorts of random stuff. And he's like, permission to perform a maneuver that might get us out of this mess. And then they have a bit back and forth, and he's like, I call it hugging the donkey. And then the ship just starts fucking rodeoing around the krill. Like, the krill have a much bigger ship, and the Orville just starts like, it's like, you know those weird science objects? Like, there's tons of them. You know, you got like your Newton's cradle, you got like the man on a ring that spins forever, and like there's like all sorts of like weird sciencey objects. The movement of the ship reminded me of like one of those where it's like, you know, maybe it's meant to show an orbit of some planets, and it like moves super duper weirdly, and all the planets like, it's got like a bunch of spinning rings, but it's just one ship basically. Just it's like they put the way the ship moves, it's like they put a rope on the big krill ship, hooked it up to the Orville, and just like went full blast on like sideways engines, and it just fucking spins around the krill ship.
Really good. And he just like at one point he's just like, he just takes his hands off of the thing, turns around, and is talking. It's just completely, and the ship's just flying around in circles on its own, and he's just like having a conversation, completely hands off, flying this fucking starship around.
Like fucking flying around. The krill ship is also, both the ships are shaped quite weirdly, and they both got like backs that have holes in, and the krill ship is so big that the Orville just flies in between its engines, which like extend out with a space between them, and the dude takes his hands off, and they're like flying, like barely making it through the
like
middle
with
of this.
With the shots that they've done for like how they've shot it, it looks really like fast and scary. And you can like see at one point the ship takes off and turns around, and the ship barely passes between these like two rings on the back of the krill ship, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
I think the only thing they could have done, if they really wanted to seal the deal, was also make the krill ship spin in an attempt to like, because I think the reason they didn't show it is probably because like you could argue like it's from the krill's point of perspective, so it wouldn't be moving. But like the krill ship only shoots forwards, and the guns only come out of like one specific point. I assume this was like a budget thing. I was just very sad that the krill ship didn't also spin wildly in an attempt to try and catch the Orville. Would have been way more entertaining.
Oh my gosh. And then they managed to dock the shuttle on the ship whilst it's spinning around really fast around the other ship.
Yeah. They have a bit of a moment where they're like, can you catch the shuttle because they've lost their engines? It's like a That's like a needle in a tire stack or something.
I think it's like threading a needle in a hurricane.
That's the one. And then he just does it, and they're like, "Yay!" Which honestly, I honestly, that bit was kind of Star Trek-y to me, where I'm like, you know they're gonna succeed, so like the tension is.
My God, very, Captain, the ship's gonna self-destruct and we're all gonna die. Dun dun dun. Next time on Star Trek: Next Generation.
Thank God we saved the ship from exploding terribly.
We're all still alive. Except for that one red shirt that we introduced at the start of last episode.
No, not Fred Rogers. Oh, no. No, it's probably, it's more like their name's going to be like something like Tuvanko. Not Tavanko.
Oh my God, there is a character, okay, similar to this in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There's a Jedi that's introduced for an episode, and it's very like sad episode, and he's called I'm a Gundy, which is just I'm gonna die, and that's his name, and he dies.
I can't believe.
Yeah, but it's very emotional death.
I'm a Gundy. I always now we can't watch the Clone Wars because
I mean that's
just ruined I'm a Gundy for me.
Episode in the
spoilers, by the way. God,
I'm sorry. That's a spoiler for the
I'm a Gundy.
I don't know, 10-year-old episode, probably more or whatever. Oh, sorry for the spoilers, chat.
Unbelievable. Anyway, one thing I did really enjoy was the Orville gets hit really bad, and the back of the ship just gets blown to bits.
Yeah.
And like, maybe they have done that in Star Trek, but I feel like I've never.
Most of the time in the early Star Trek, because a lot of the shots were they had an actual fucking massive physical model. They didn't break it unless it was for a special occasion. And even the Enterprise D, I'm sure it like explodes in some sort of CGI fashion many times. And maybe they do blow one of the models up and they get a new one, I don't know. But it doesn't like the only when the ship actually dies isn't until all of the entire seasons have finished and they made a movie. So
jeez. Oh my God, spoilers for the end of the
spoilers for the end movie. Of one of the movies. Oh my God.
You have to guess which one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was I know that like CGI is easier nowadays.
Yeah.
Because, they're not unionized.
But still it's like that's why it's easier. Cuz God. Just the poor fucking CGI workers.
Somebody please, they need longer holidays and dental.
Work overtime.
Anyway, it was nice to see it get blown to bits.
Yeah.
Like that was just a thing. It's like that felt like one of those moments for me where it's like that maybe there's it's hard to think of an example of this, but things that happened the first time were mind-blowing. Maybe like Jurassic Park is a good example of this, where like the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And they show all the dinosaurs and it's like, whoa, and it's super amazing. Or I think actually Star Wars episode 2, or is it episode 2? When the Luke, I am your father.
Oh, right.
Or no, I am your father, or whatever it is. People didn't know when they went into that, and it was insane. Like, it was insanely mind-blowing. And then afterwards, like 20 years on, everybody knows. And like, it felt like my mind suddenly opened up, where I was like, they can break the ships.
Yeah.
And the ships are fine because they broke off a less important part. I was like, it was just really cool. I suddenly was like, oh, they can do that.
Yeah. Because I guess when we watched Star Trek Discovery last time, they
did blow up all of the ships.
No, but they're like the ship that they. Pardon. The ship that they were obviously not going to use, the Shenzhou, doesn't get reused. After its appearance, it gets the fucking ship blown out of it. So you're not going to be like, oh, we'll see it next week back in full health, it's like, nah, that fucking shit, it's dead. It's absolutely obliterated. But yeah, only in that specific instance. Whereas, if they were going to use it the next week, maybe it would have come out relatively unscathed. But not in the Orville.
But no, in the Orville, the engines are gone. They just smashed off the back end. It's like, it looks really cool, and like the space debris is like flying through space, and they're flying towards the ship. That's how the shuttle gets damaged and all this stuff. But like, I don't know, it was just really cool to see it explode.
It's a shame you didn't watch episode 2, because episode 2 actually has a bit with a massive explosion at the back of the ship that also just causes a huge crack in the part of the ship as well.
Spoilers. Everyone who, God, any other spoilers we want to drop?
I think that.
Oh yeah, spoilers. Luke is Vader's child.
Yeah. And also Leia is Luke's sister, twins.
Oh yeah, and Leia's also Luke's child.
What?
So Leia is also Vader's child.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
twins.
Yeah. I'd say it in a different way.
Yeah. And God, what else is a spoiler?
So they get back,
anyway.
they get back on the ship, and the next scene pretty much is when they hail the Krill. I laughed so hard at this scene.
Oh yeah.
I think the only way it could have been funnier is if they didn't. So if you haven't seen the episode, and you're planning on watching it, and we're giving all these spoilers, obviously, I would just recommend watching it now, so you can just not be spoiled, because you can't talk about comedy and then go and watch it, and it's not funny anymore.
That's the bit that Overlite talks about.
That's the
thing. I know that one.
Wow.
Leonardo DiCaprio meme.
I'm gonna talk about it now. I lost my shit so hard at the fucking. They hail the guy, and it's like, oh, we've got to stall for time. They hail, and the captain and the first mate are divorced.
Oh yeah, we never
were
said
married.
That. So
I've never said. By the way, it's not that important. I mean, it is like they quip about it the whole episode, but it's like.
Well,
and you'll see. I mean, you've told me that the quips they get less strong later on, and by the end of the episode, this conflict is mostly resolved.
Yeah, I don't. But we never even said. So the ship doesn't have a first officer, and they pick up a first officer, and it's the captain's ex-wife who cheated on him. So they have a lot of conflict throughout the episode, sassing each other back and forth.
That is like pretty much the main source of all of these tiny, like, if there was something I would point to say they made too many jokes, that would be the first thing to go. Would be the like husband and wife. I mean, it kind of like by the end it's resolved and they have to show there's a conflict there somehow, but also like, they just went on about it a lot.
Totally resolved. Definitely doesn't come back immediately next episode.
I turned off my brain every time it happened. But they hail the Krill, and they're like, we need to buy time so we can get the engines online. And the captain is like, oh, can I get your judgment on have you ever been married? And they start like asking about marriage. And the first mate is like, first officer is like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm buying time. And she's like, right, yeah. What would you do if your husband was working away long hours, and would you think that's justified? And like they just start having a conversation with the person that's trying to kill them about like their marriage, marriage counseling.
And the Krill's like, oh, I can totally understand how you would find the need for companionship if your husband just didn't give you any and was constantly working and didn't give you any attention and just was never there. And he's like,
so everyone's against me now.
Like,
I see how
he's really upset that the Krill has chosen her side. It's so good.
So fucking good. I think honestly the funniest moment of that whole episode.
I lost it really hard. The Krill's like super grumpy and angry, and then he just goes, "Yeah, actually, you know what? I agree with that." And he just like totally switches. Like
it's like until that point, they are like holding the tension. The Krill are like bad guys. Blow you up. They're coming to mess you up. They're coming to steal this object. They want the time like acceleration machine to use as probably as a weapon or something.
I want the time acceleration machine.
The guy that's on their ship, the Krill that's on their like little shuttle that they knock out immediately, has the sexiest voice. He's got like
I don't even remember.
He's completely irrelevant, but the dude comes out and is just completely smooth and bassy, and I'm just like, oh wow,
damn.
What a beautiful voice. It's genuinely such a beautiful, smooth. I want the Krill to be my late night jazz radio on a long drive through the rain for 3 hours or longer.
Late night jazz
I want
radio.
that to be my radio announcer. Just welcome to Krill Radio.
Krill Radio. I hear about our Lord and Savior, the Prophet or whatever the fuck it's called. Oh no, this is an episode. Anyway.
Yeah, and then they like out of nowhere cut the tension with the fucking the marriage debate, which I thought was so incredible. And my favorite part was that after that conversation, the two of them get along really well. Like from that point onwards, they stop arguing about it for the rest of the episode, which I thought was just it was really funny. Anyway, they're like, oh, what should we do? And then they have a realization they can use the time acceleration machine on these redwood seeds that they picked up way earlier that can grow in any condition. And then they do a little bit of DIY. The captain, the first mate, they work together really well, and they're like quipping back and forth, and they're like jury rigging the seed to be glued to the device.
Of being like some sort of magical way of attaching it, they super glue it to the top of the machine.
Again, honestly, feels like what would happen. That's some 21st century shit right there. And then they send off the device to the other ship. The other ship activates it. And it accelerates the growth of this tiny redwood seed into an entire giant redwood in space and just obliterates the Krill ship.
Yeah,
which
I mean that's one way to solve your problems.
All Zelda ends well. And then they have a happy resolution. And we get a scene at the end of the first mate. We get a scene of the captain talking to the first mate, because she's like, well, I'm only here temporarily. I'm gonna go. There's someone else lined up. And the captain's like, Ed Mercer. He's like, I'm asking you to stay. She's like, okay,
fine, I'll stay.
It's an honor. Yes, sir, etc., etc. And then we get an ending scene of the first mate talking to the like fleet commander from way back in at the beginning of the episode, and he's like, oh, that was a real good job. It's a good thing we had you on board. And she was like, I knew he was a good choice. He just needed one more chance. And the fleet commander's like, well, nobody was giving him any. He would have been completely out of luck if you hadn't begged us to let him back in. Does he know? And she's like, no, I don't intend to tell him. And the scene, it's like, oh my god, his ex-wife got him a job.
Literally managed to get him his job back. That he was on the track for before she shagged another dude.
Yeah, he was married to his work and not to her, so she found comfort in the arms of another, which after that led him on a downward spiral into losing his own job, and then weirdly cyclical the way that came around. And then she was like, I'm gonna beg Starfleet to give him a position, and they did. Yeah, no, I skipped basically all of the jokes in that plot summary.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
except my favorite one, because like you can't retell jokes.
Yeah.
You can't go watch it if you want to laugh and enjoy the quips or cringe at the quips. Maybe, go watch it yourself.
So I just having a little nose around, and I actually think it's funny because you said that the combat scenes reminded you of Star Wars, and I just found out that the first episode was directed by Jon Favreau, who did Iron Man and also did The Mandalorian, and a bunch of other he's like the co-head of Star Wars now or something with Dave Filoni or some position like that. So
okay then.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense now. A lot of sense.
Oh, I love a good. Honestly, I do really enjoy when a show just suddenly puts out an incredible episode, and then you go and you check, and it's like this one episode was made by this one person, who, as it turns out, makes amazing episodes.
Yeah.
It's like it feels like a nice treat. You know, it's like the world has been given this special gift of like it's very beautifully like set in a different way to how they normally do it, with or an interesting story compared to what they normally do, or just like exploring something they don't explore. And it's like gifted to the world by like a specific person who came on, who's like an expert in their field, and got them to do it completely differently. And it's wonderful. I really like it when that happens, and when I learn about it, it's like, yes, big fan. Anyway, I was gonna talk about for a second the like camera work a little bit, and the some of the comedy, not any specific moments, but it does this a bunch of times, the show. It lingers, and I think this is because it's a comedy show, but honestly, like, it kind of works very well, and I'm not surprised if they use it later for non-comedy moments, where like characters will have a conversation or be talking, and then one of them has to leave, and they leave, but the camera is still on them, basically, like, and they're like in the process of leaving, or they leave, and like we're still just watching them leave. It's like either the camera stays on one of the people who was there and is just like, well, we're still here, I guess I gotta go back to work. Or like the camera, like, it
kind of like hangs.
It like follows them. Oh. Yeah, it hangs a lot, and in a really good way that was really funny. I just wanted to put it out there that I just really enjoyed watching the camera hang. I was like, it adds to the atmosphere and the comedy like so much, in my opinion. I just want to say I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Would you watch more of the series? Is the big question.
That's do I have options?
What?
It's I don't hunger for this is my eternal problem. I don't hunger for fantasy shows. Sorry. That's actually I don't actually hunger for fantasy shows that much. It's fantasy video games that get me. But I don't hunger for sci-fi shows that much. And like, this is, if I watched this, I would enjoy it.
Yeah. Would
I watch it in my own time? Not really. I tend to just watch things if they have lesbians in. The number one criteria of, oh hey, Overlite watched a show is like, did it have a pair of lesbians in, or is it in some way like got some just good gay vibes? Or like, if it's not lesbians, it has on occasion been there's been certain shows I've watched that have straight relationships in, but those like, it's a man and a woman, but like it's destroying gender roles in some way, and I'm like, yeah, pop off. So like, if there were, I don't even think there's a thing you could add to this show that would make me be like, oh, I really want to watch this. But I would, if I watched more, I would enjoy it. Would I watch more in my own time?
Yeah. Does it give you the same vibe? So the show that we've had the most like hype out of was Battlestar Galactica. How does it rank up?
It's difficult because they, in my opinion, live in very different genres, sort of worlds.
But they're both sci-fi.
Yeah, one of them is about like the horrors of war and what it means to be human,
and like what happens if the entire of your species gets wiped out.
Very moral questions. Yeah. Like, and I'm sure maybe it takes a dip into like maybe a bit of extremism, because I would expect that to happen if, you know, your entire race got left out and you were, you know, there was another species warring yours to try and exterminate you. You probably would have to resort to extreme measures as well. So maybe it will take a dip into that later on, Battlestar Galactica. And this is like good 20, you know, Bob from the pub. He's Dave and Bob from the pub. They're in space.
Yep.
And your co-worker who's going through a rough divorce, to someone who works at the same in the office with you. They both work in the office. You have to deal with that. And then you just, you know, you got some, like, it's just very it's very like it's very just like everyday. It's very, very everyday. So it's difficult to compare them. I still have to compare them, don't I?
I mean,
I think if I was gonna watch one, I probably would watch Battlestar Galactica more, because I think it's a more, when I watch an episode of something, I'm left with a feeling of, do I want to keep watching this? Sometimes it's because I want to find out what's happened next in the plot. Sometimes it's because, oh, that was so thrilling. I wonder what exciting, thrilling thing is going to happen next time. Sometimes it's because, wow, I loved that statement they were making about life, and I want to see them do more. You know, like there's like a pull. This was like comedy, and if I wanted comedy, I would go watch some other comedy. You know, I'd go watch a comedy show that I like, or some other show that I like. But Battlestar Galactica, it's like saying things that maybe don't get approached, and also like it has a very, I don't know, it just has a lot of really good shit going on. I'm like, I want more of this good shit.
I think I started off way too strong with Battlestar Galactica when we started this podcast. I was like, that's a good one that'll get Overlite to enjoy the podcast. It's pretty solid.
I think it was smart.
It turns out it's the best episode, and nothing's gonna top it.
Nothing's gonna top it. We're never gonna. Well, what would beat Battlestar Galactica?
I don't know.
Give me a Star Wars show.
Okay.
That handles
Andor.
Many of the problems that we face in 2020. What year is it?
Andor.
In 2020.
Andor.
With
2020.
all sorts of strife and the insane challenges of social media and how weird the world is and the shit you get exposed to, and then you know, a little bit of politics, a little bit of and like
okay, we're gonna watch Andor next week. Anyway, thank everybody for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.
You're hired. No, I don't have a funny bit this week.
You're hired.
You're hired. View screen.
Off.
Activate the time machine. We're accelerating to 7 days from now.